Okay, so I know I said that we talked about Longfellow's final sonnets, and we did. The Book of Sonnets is his last major work of sonnets. There are like two or three sprinkled throughout his collections of the early 1880s. One on President Garfield that's pretty cool. But if you had read all of Longfellow's poems up till his death, and you thought to yourself, that's it, I've read all of Longfellow's sonnets. Well, Mesocamin was coming, but there was another surprise coming, because on the very last page of the second volume of Longfellow's life, his brother Samuel revealed a second secret sonnet. He says this: in one of his early letters, Mr. Longfellow had said, "With me all deep feelings are silent ones." It was always so of the deepest. No word of his bitter sorrow and anguish found expression in verse. But he felt the need of some continuous and tranquil occupation for his thoughts, and after some months he summoned the resolution to take up again the task of translating Dante. And then Samuel talks a bit about his translation of Dante. But then he says that long after his translation of Dante, he kind of went back and revisited some of his pain over the loss of his second wife. And he says this: when Longfellow began again to write verses of his own after the publication of the Divine Comedy, it is only in frequent phrases and lines that reveal the sorrow lying ever at his heart. 18 years afterward, looking over one day an illustrated book of Western scenery, his attention was arrested by a picture of that mysterious mountain upon whose lonely lofty breast the snow lies in long furrows that make a rude but wonderfully clear image of a vast cross. At night, as he looked upon the pictured countenance that hung upon his chambered wall, his thoughts framed themselves into the verses that follow. He put them away in his portfolio, where they were found after his death. That has removed from them the seal of secrecy. And then he prints a sonnet called The Cross of Snow. In the long sleepless watches of the night, a gentle face, the face of one long dead, looks at me from the wall, where round its head the night lamp casts a halo of pale light. Here in this room she died, and soul more white never through martyrdom of fire was led to its repose, nor can in books be read the legend of a life more benedight. There is a mountain in the distant west that, sun-defying, in its deep ravines displays a cross of snow upon its side. Such is the cross I wear upon my breast these 18 years, through all the changing scenes and seasons, changeless since the day she died. July 10th, 1879. The Cross of Snow, I wouldn't argue, is one of his best sonnets, but the fact that it was a sonnet that he kept secret, like Mesocamin, has actually made it one of his most popular sonnets to reprint. And it's got that good romantic, I am remembering one I loved and how she suffered and died, and I miss her. Let's now talk about this mountain I saw that has a cross of snow on it, and this becomes a metaphor for me. Now, it's interesting, it's a little inverted. Most romantic conceits, and we get this from Wordsworth, of course, start with a view of nature, a description of nature, and then in the second part say, and here's how this applies to me, and sort of is a metaphor for my spiritual journey. It's interesting that Longfellow gives us kind of the literal meaning of and story of his grief and his personal missing of his wife, and then gives us the natural image in the sestet. It's also worth noting that this is a Petrarchan sonnet. Night, dead head, light, white, lead, red, dight, west, ravine, side, breast, scenes, died. It's Petrarchan. There's a rawness, that Samuel, it's interesting, Samuel says, we don't get much of his personal feeling in his poems. I've thought that we do. He's very straightforward. Not always about romantic feeling, though, and we talked about that with his early sonnets. And here, this isn't as much romance as it is grief over lost, lifelong love. Such is the cross I wear upon my breast these 18 years, through all the changing scenes and seasons, changeless since the day she died. There's a lot of great C's and S's there. Changing seasons, seasons, changeless. There's almost a chiastic structure there of changing on the outside, scenes and seasons on the inside. It's very masterfully done. He hid it away for him, but as Samuel says, his death has removed from this poem the seal of secrecy. What do you think of Longfellow's sonnets? What do you think of this journey we've gone on? Why do I keep uncovering these sonnets that is just one more to say? I promise we're done after this, though there is another late sonnet that's worth checking out, President Garfield, which also mentions Dante in it. But The Cross of Snow, I promise, is our last Longfellow sonnet. We'll move on to other things. Sonnets are important. Thanks for hanging out and talking about them.